Learn the right lesson once, and it can serve you for life. Keep ignoring it, and you'll keep repeating the same struggle in different forms. The truth is, you don't need more information, you need better direction. This isn't about hype, trends, or empty motivation. This is about life-changing clarity. These are 10 powerful lessons that, once fully understood, can shift the way you think, the way you move, and the way you live, forever. Not for a day, not for a week, for life. And here's the best part. Once you lock these in, you won't need to keep restarting your journey every time life gets hard. Think about it. How many times have you known what to do, but didn't follow through? How many times have you promised to change, only to end up back in the same routine? That's not because you're weak. It's because no one taught you how to master the fundamentals. That's what this video is for. These 10 lessons are simple, but they're not soft. They will challenge your thinking. They will force you to take a hard look at your habits, your mindset, your excuses, and your daily decisions. But once you see them clearly, you can never unsee them. And that's exactly why this video will stay with you. So if you're tired of repeating the same patterns, and you're ready for a clear, practical path forward, this is where you start. Watch this to the end. Apply what you hear, and your life will never be the same again. Chapter 1. Your thoughts are not always true. Question everything. Every great transformation begins in silence, not with a loud breakthrough, but with a quiet realization. That realization is simple, but life-changing. Not everything you think is true. That voice in your head, the one that constantly tells you what you're capable of, what you're not, what others think, how you're seen, and what's possible for you, it doesn't always speak truth. It speaks patterns, it repeats stories, it mimics fear. And if you let it guide you without ever stopping to examine it, your life will start to reflect limitations that were never real to begin with. Every person walking around today has two versions of themselves, the one they are and the one they could become. And the space between those two versions is filled with thoughts. Thoughts that either build a bridge or build a wall. Thoughts that either free you or lock you inside a life you never wanted. And it's not always loud or dramatic. Often it's a subtle voice saying things like, "I can't," or "I'm not ready," or "that's not me." But it is you. You just haven't met that part of yourself yet, because your mind is stuck looping the same old tracks that someone else laid down for you. What you think all day becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes who you are. But if your thoughts were never questioned, then your beliefs were never chosen, they were inherited. This is why questioning your thoughts is not just a mental exercise, it's an act of personal freedom. It's you standing up and saying, "I refuse to live by a story I didn't write." Because here's the reality most never realize: your thoughts aren't facts. They're reflections. They reflect your past, your environment, your conditioning, your wounds, your influences, but not your truth. And the sooner you start observing them, rather than obeying them, the sooner you take your power back. Think about how often you've had a thought that stopped you from doing something important. A thought that said, "You're not smart enough," or "You'll just embarrass yourself," or "Why even try when you'll probably fail?" That thought doesn't care about your future. It only cares about keeping you safe and comfortable. But comfort never built greatness. Comfort never helped you find out who you really are. And that's why the people who change their lives are the ones who learn how to pause between a thought and their reaction to it. They don't just believe every voice in their head. They question it. They challenge it. They say, "Where did that thought come from? Is it serving me, or is it limiting me?" The human mind has one job: survival. It's designed to keep you out of danger, not to help you thrive. So when you think about doing something bold, starting a new chapter, stepping into discomfort, setting higher goals, your mind will often resist. It will create thoughts that feel like truth, but are actually fear wearing a mask. And if you've never been taught to question those thoughts, you'll assume they're facts. But facts don't paralyze you. Fear does, and fear disguises itself as logic. It says things like, be realistic. You've failed before, remember. This isn't the right time. And the more you listen, the more your dreams get postponed until they become regret. When you look at the people who seem unshakable, those who show up consistently, who speak with confidence, who live with clarity, it's not because they have no doubts. It's because they've trained themselves to question the ones that don't serve them. They've trained themselves to separate emotion from truth, reaction from reason. They don't let a passing thought dictate the course of their life. They sit with it, dissect it, and ask, is this helpful? Is this who I want to be? If the answer is no, they move forward anyway. That kind of mental strength is not built overnight, but it starts with a single decision to stop giving every thought equal power. To stop assuming that just because a thought feels true, it must be. Because the mind is like a garden, and every thought is a seed. If you don't choose what you plant, you'll grow weeds, and those weeds will choke out the possibilities waiting to bloom. But if you become intentional, if you start planting thoughts that are rooted in growth, courage and clarity, your entire inner world begins to shift. And when the inside shifts, the outside follows. You don't have to eliminate all negative thoughts to live a powerful life. You just have to stop giving them the final say. You just have to become more curious than afraid, more aware than reactive, more committed to truth than comfort. And that means taking a few minutes every day to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what thought dominated my mind today? Did that thought lift me or lower me? Did it open a door or close one? And most importantly, would I keep thinking this if I knew it was shaping the course of my future? Once you develop the habit of asking those questions, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop living based on old stories and start living based on conscious choice. You realize that your thoughts can be edited, upgraded, rewritten. You realize that just because your mind offers you a script doesn't mean you have to follow it. You can throw it out and write your own. One that aligns with your values, one that pushes you to grow, one that reflects the kind of person you're becoming, not the one you were told to be. And maybe right now, that's exactly what you need. Not more motivation, not more information, but the reminder that you have the right to take control of your mind, that you are not powerless, that even on the days when your thoughts feel heavy and loud, you are still the one who gets to decide what you believe and what you act on. Because the truth is, you don't become stronger by silencing negative thoughts. You become stronger by facing them, questioning them, and realizing they don't control you. They're just noise. And when you get quiet enough, clear enough, honest enough, you'll start to hear a different voice. One that doesn't speak from fear or doubt, but from strength, from truth, from vision. That's the voice that's been waiting beneath the noise this whole time. It's not easy to challenge your own mind. It takes work. It takes awareness. It takes patience. But it's worth it. Because once you stop believing every thought you think, you become free. And when you're free, you can do anything. You can change. You can rise. You can rebuild. You can begin again, this time with your eyes open and your mind aligned with your purpose. This is the start of that journey. You're no longer the follower of your thoughts. You are the leader of your life. Chapter 2. You're either training discipline or excuses. Every single day is shaping you. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every time you decide whether to push forward or pull back, it's all training something in you. You're never standing still. You're either training yourself to get stronger, sharper, more resilient, or you're training yourself to get softer, slower, and more reactive. You are either getting better or getting worse. And the thing is, this happens quietly. It happens when you hit snooze instead of getting up. It happens when you say, "I'll do it later" for the 100th time. It happens when you choose comfort over commitment. These tiny moments, they're not meaningless. They're building habits, identity, and the future version of you. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's not some magical trait that only a few lucky people have. It's a skill, it's a decision, and most importantly, it's a mindset. People who live with discipline don't always feel motivated. They're not superhuman. They just don't make decisions based on what they feel like in the moment. They act based on who they want to become. That's the difference. That's the mental switch that turns a distracted life into a focused one. If you keep waiting to feel ready, to feel inspired, or to feel in the mood to get things done, you'll waste months, years, maybe even your entire life. You have to understand that discipline is built when you do what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. That's when you build the muscle. That's when you stop being a slave to your own mind. It's easy to work when it's fun. It's easy to show up when everything feels perfect. But real growth starts when you stop negotiating with excuses. You either do the work or you don't. You either take the step or you stand still. And every time you choose to push through the resistance, you're proving something to yourself. You're saying, "I'm the kind of person who follows through." That's how you earn confidence. Not from talking about it, not from watching motivational videos, from doing the hard thing again and again until it becomes who you are. The problem is that excuses feel good in the moment. They protect your ego. They give you a temporary way out. You say things like, "I'm too tired, I'll start tomorrow, I've got too much going on," and it lets you avoid the discomfort. But that comfort you feel is expensive. It costs you progress. It costs you belief in yourself. It slowly eats away at your potential until one day you look around and realize you've been living the same year over and over again. That's not what you want. Deep down, you know you're capable of more. You know you're built for more. But nothing changes until you start being honest about the choices you're making. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or going to the gym. It's about doing what you said you were going to do, no matter how small it is. It's about honoring your own word. If you told yourself you were going to read for 10 minutes, do it. If you said you'd write 1 page, write it. Because the moment you break that promise to yourself, you weaken your identity. You tell yourself, "I'm the kind of person who gives up easily." And the worst part is that you might not even notice it. But your subconscious does. It keeps track. Every time you skip what you said you'd do, you're teaching yourself not to believe in your own words. And when you don't believe in yourself, no amount of outside motivation will fix that. On the flip side, when you keep those small promises, when you show up even when it's inconvenient, you create power. You start stacking wins. You start walking with your head higher, your chest out, because you've earned that pride. That's what discipline gives you. Not just external success, but internal strength. A quiet kind of self-respect that no one can give you or take away. Now think about the way your brain works. It wants to avoid pain. It wants to chase dopamine. So when you skip the hard stuff and give in to excuses, Your brain rewards you in the short term. You get a rush of comfort. But over time, you train it to fear effort. You condition it to retreat the moment things get uncomfortable. This is why people quit easily. This is why they stay stuck. They've trained themselves to back down. But if you reverse that, if you start associating hard work with progress, with growth, with pride, your mind starts to crave discipline. You'll begin to feel restless when you skip your habits. That's when you know it's working. It's not about being perfect. It's not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about being consistent enough that even when you fall off, you know how to get back up. You don't spiral. You don't start over every Monday. You get back on track the same day, the same hour, the same minute. Because it's who you are now. And the only way to become that kind of person is to stop justifying the things that hold you back. You don't need a better plan. You need better execution. You don't need another goal. You need better discipline to stick to the ones you already have. Every decision matters. You are reinforcing either discipline or excuses. And even if you think it's just one day, that one day becomes a pattern. That pattern becomes a personality. And that personality becomes your lifestyle. So decide now what you're training. Decide now what kind of life you want to live. Not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. The discomfort you feel when you push yourself, it's temporary. But the pride you feel from doing what you said you'd do, that lasts. You don't have to be the most talented. You don't have to be the most gifted. You just have to outlast your excuses. And the only way to do that is to stop feeding them. Stop giving them attention. Starve them with action. Drown them in consistency. The voice that says take a break or you can skip today doesn't want your best. It wants your comfort. And comfort is the enemy of transformation. So if you want to change your life, change your habits. If you want to change your habits, change what you tolerate from yourself. You can either keep training weakness, or you can build strength one decision at a time. Every day is an opportunity to get sharper. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Cast enough votes, and that identity becomes unshakable. It becomes real. You wake up one day and realize, I didn't just hope for discipline. I trained it, I built it, and now it's mine. That's the moment everything changes. And it starts today. Chapter 3. You are the programmed result of your inputs. Whether you're aware of it or not, everything you see, hear, read, and consume is training your thoughts, shaping your beliefs, and programming your actions. Nothing enters your mind and leaves you unchanged. Even the smallest things, the songs you listen to, the conversations you have, the voices you follow online, each one leaves an imprint. And over time, those inputs become your reality. They shape your view of the world. They influence what you believe is possible. They determine how you think, how you feel, and ultimately, how you live. The scariest part, you don't even realize it's happening. You just start feeling tired, unmotivated, distracted. You start doubting yourself. You start lowering your standards. And you can't figure out why. But the truth is, the answer has been in front of you the whole time. Your inputs have been feeding your mind garbage. And now you're wondering why you don't feel like your strongest self. If you want to build a better life, you have to take full responsibility for what you allow into your mind. Your brain is like a sponge. It absorbs everything. And when you're constantly absorbing negativity, drama, distraction, noise, and low-level thinking, you start to reflect it. You might not notice it right away, but it builds up. Little by little, your motivation fades. Your focus slips. Your goals lose their clarity. and you start to drift. You stop living intentionally and start reacting to whatever is in front of you. This is how people lose themselves. Not because they're weak, but because they never took control of the information feeding their thoughts. Everything you consume is either sharpening you or dulling you. It's either making you more focused, more grounded, more disciplined, or it's pulling you into confusion, doubt, and fear. And you can always tell what someone's inputs are just by how they carry themselves. You can see it in their energy, in the way they talk, in how they show up. The people who are clear, calm, and consistent, they've taken the time to protect their mind. They guard what they allow in. They don't waste time scrolling through endless negativity. They don't let the world decide what they focus on. They choose their inputs carefully because they understand that what goes in must come out. If you're constantly consuming chaos, don't be surprised when your mind feels chaotic. If you're always watching people complain, gossip, or spread fear, don't be shocked when your own thoughts start echoing the same tone. If your feed is full of people living lives that make you feel like you're behind, don't act confused when your self-worth starts shrinking. Everything has a price, and the content you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the energy you expose yourself to, it all comes with a cost. The question is, are you paying in progress, or are you paying in peace? You have the power to change your entire mindset just by changing what you feed it. Start with the small things. Replace 1 hour of scrolling with 1 hour of reading. Cut out the noise and replace it with quiet thinking. Spend less time around people who complain and more time listening to people who challenge you to rise. Clean up your digital world. Unfollow the accounts that distract you. Mute the voices that make you feel less. Add in the ones that push you to be better. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. You can't afford to let your environment program you by accident. If you want to live on purpose, you have to consume on purpose too. You have to become a guardian of your mind, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's tempting to check out, especially when it's tempting to escape into comfort. That's when you have to remind yourself, everything is programming you. Every video, every song, every conversation, every post. Your mind is always learning, so you better make sure it's learning the right things. Start feeding your mind with content that aligns with your goals, your values, and your potential. Spend time listening to people who speak from truth and experience, not noise and ego. Read books that teach you something real. Watch content that adds something meaningful to your life. Fill your time with conversations that uplift you, not drain you. When you change what you consume, you change how you think. And when you change how you think, you change who you become. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more talent. You don't even need more time. You just need better inputs. The mind is a mirror. It reflects whatever it sees the most. If you want to see strength, discipline, and clarity in the mirror, then those are the things you need to surround yourself with daily. You are being programmed whether you like it or not. The question is, are you doing the programming, or is someone else doing it for you? The world is loud and it's never going to quiet down, but you can rise above the noise. You can train your focus. You can protect your peace. You can take back control by becoming intentional with what enters your space. You don't have to accept every message, every headline, every voice. You can choose. You can create a mental environment that breeds clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of weakness, growth instead of stagnation. The moment you stop feeding your mind junk and start filling it with wisdom, strength, and truth, everything begins to change. Your energy changes, your standards rise, your habits get sharper, And without even realizing it, you start showing up like a different person. You start feeling more alive, more focused, more in control. And that's not by accident. It's because your mind is finally being fed what it needs to thrive. So the next time you feel stuck, drained or uninspired, don't blame your work ethic. Don't blame your goals. Check your inputs. Audit what's been entering your mind. Clean up the clutter. Eliminate the distractions. And start feeding yourself the kind of energy that builds empires, not just externally, but internally. Your life will always be the result of what you allow in, so choose wisely. Guard your focus. Protect your peace. And remember this, if you can control what enters your mind, you can control everything else that follows. Chapter 4. You don't need permission to take control. The turning point in life is never when someone gives you a green light. It's when you finally decide to stop waiting for one. That moment when you stop asking for validation, stop needing approval, stop waiting for signs, and simply decide that from this point on, your life belongs to you. That's when everything begins to shift. Because nobody is coming to hand you confidence. Nobody is coming to grant you permission to start. You've had the power all along. You just haven't been using it. And the reason is simple. You were taught to wait. From a young age, the world teaches you to look outside yourself for answers. Raise your hand before you speak. Wait to be chosen. Ask before you act. And over time, that becomes the default. You start questioning your instincts. You start second-guessing your decisions. You start looking around, hoping someone will give you the go-ahead. But life doesn't work like that. Life rewards those who move forward, regardless of who's watching, regardless of who agrees, and regardless of who supports them. The people who grow, who evolve, who rise, are the ones who stop waiting to be picked and start choosing themselves, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular. You've probably felt it before, that quiet frustration that builds when you know you're capable of more, but keep holding yourself back. That inner tension that says, why haven't I started? Or why am I playing small? That feeling isn't random. It's your higher self knocking, trying to get your attention. It's the part of you that knows the truth, that you're not stuck because of your potential. You're stuck because you're still acting like you need permission to unlock it. The truth is, you don't need anyone to believe in you before you begin. You just need to believe enough to start moving. And the longer you wait for someone to co-sign your greatness, the more time you waste living beneath it. This world is not designed to hand people success. It's designed to test who really wants it. And the test is simple. Will you go anyway? Will you keep building when nobody sees it? Will you stay focused when it feels like nothing is working? Will you lead yourself when no one is leading you? That's what separates those who grow from those who coast. It's not the environment, it's the internal permission slip. The one you either write yourself or never receive. Some people spend their entire lives trying to impress others, hoping they'll be seen. They chase titles, praise, attention, but even when they get it, it never feels like enough. Because external validation is a shallow currency. It doesn't satisfy the soul. What fulfills you is knowing that you're becoming who you're meant to be. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you claimed it for yourself. That's real power. That's real freedom. And once you taste it, you stop caring so much about what the world thinks, and start focusing on what truly matters. Your growth, your discipline, your character. It's easy to fall into the trap of hesitation, to overthink every move, to wonder what others will say. But while you're stuck in your head, debating whether to act, someone else with less talent and more courage is already taking steps. They're making mistakes, learning, evolving, and moving forward, not because they're better than you, but because they stopped needing everything to be perfect. They understood something powerful. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You don't wait until you're clear to move. You move until you're clear. Every time you take action without permission, you're reinforcing the belief that you can lead yourself. And that belief builds. It stacks. It grows stronger, until one day you don't even hesitate anymore. You just move. You just act. You trust yourself. That's not arrogance. That's earned confidence. The kind that comes from doing the work, from showing up, from failing forward, from owning your choices, even when they scare you. The life you want isn't hiding. It's waiting on the other side of action. And no one can take that action for you. No one is going to knock on your door and say, now is the right time. That moment never comes. The right time is when you decide it is. The green light is when you give it to yourself. And the moment you understand that, you become unstoppable. You stop being held hostage by opinions, fears, or doubts. You stop looking for a sign and become one. You don't need to be more qualified, more experienced, more approved, or more perfect. You just need to start. You just need to stop waiting for a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Start with who you are now. Start with what you have now. That's where confidence is born, not in some future fantasy, but in the real raw effort you put in today. When you take control, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop explaining and start executing. You stop wishing and start working. And you realize that you were always more powerful than you thought. You just hadn't tapped into it. You had been handing that power away, quietly, without realizing it. But now you know, and now it's on you to take it back. Your story is being written, whether you're holding the pen or not. So grab it. Write with purpose. Move with courage. Choose yourself, not once, but every day. Because the life you've been waiting for will not arrive through permission. It will arrive through action. Relentless, intentional, unapologetic action. And once you begin living like that, the world starts to respond. Not because it gave you permission, but because you stopped needing it. Chapter 5. Emotion is a weapon or a weakness. You choose. If you want to lead your life with power, clarity, and purpose, you have to learn how to lead your emotions first. The way you manage your emotions will either sharpen your focus or cloud your judgment. It will either drive you forward with intensity or paralyze you with self-doubt. It will either make you stronger or leave you stuck in the same cycles that have been holding you back. The reality is, every decision you make is touched by your emotional state. And if you don't learn to regulate what's happening inside of you, your emotions will start making decisions for you. And that's when life starts to spiral in directions you didn't intend to go. You cannot reach your full potential while being controlled by temporary feelings. That version of you that you're chasing, the one who is calm under pressure, focused in chaos, unbothered by distractions, relentless in the face of resistance, that version only exists on the other side of emotional discipline. And you don't get that discipline from reading quotes or pretending everything's okay. You get it by facing your emotions head-on. You get it by learning how to feel without folding, how to express without exploding, and how to sit with the storm without letting it break you. Too many people give their emotions the keys to their future. They wake up feeling low, so they stop trying. They get criticized, so they shrink. They feel anxious, so they delay action. But here's the truth that will break you free if you're ready to hear it. Your emotions are not instructions. They are signals, not commands. Feeling unmotivated doesn't mean you stop. Feeling frustrated doesn't mean you give up. Feeling fear doesn't mean you back down. If you only move when you feel good, you'll never build the kind of life that makes you proud. Because real success isn't built on moods. It's built on movement. Daily, disciplined, intentional movement, even when the emotions are heavy. This is not about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about knowing when to listen and when to lead. Emotions can give you powerful insight. They can show you what matters, what you value, where you've been hurt, where you need to heal. But they can also trick you. They can exaggerate fears, distort reality, and pull you into overthinking. That's why emotional mastery is not about suppression. It's about understanding. It's about catching yourself before you spiral, grounding yourself before you overreact, and reminding yourself of the bigger picture when your emotions want to drag you into the small one. Think about how often emotions have led you to act in ways you regret, words said in anger, opportunities missed in fear, decisions made out of jealousy, insecurity, or pride. Those moments don't just pass, they leave a mark. And if you don't learn to manage what's happening inside of you, you'll keep creating messes that could have been avoided. You'll keep reacting instead of responding. You'll keep sabotaging progress just because you never learned how to pause, breathe, and take control of your own inner state. Everything changes the moment you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. That's when you begin to rise above the chaos instead of being consumed by it. You walk into challenges with a different posture. You stop letting small things steal your peace. You stop letting people's opinions shake your confidence. You stop letting frustration ruin your day. And you start leading with presence. You start choosing your energy. You start showing up like the version of you that's built for more. But make no mistake, it's a daily practice. Emotional strength doesn't show up out of nowhere. It's built by facing discomfort without escaping it. By breathing through the tension instead of trying to numb it. By learning how to feel everything fully without letting it take you over. That's how you grow. That's how you take your power back. You stop running from your feelings and start mastering them. You start sitting with the pain until it teaches you. You stop pretending to be okay and start working through what's real. And in that process, you build resilience. Not fake strength, the kind that breaks behind closed doors, but real strength, the kind that bends but never breaks. You become someone who can lead under pressure, who can speak with clarity even when triggered, who can keep moving forward, even when carrying emotional weight. That's not just powerful, that's rare. And the people who develop that kind of control, they go further in life. They don't burn bridges, they don't act out of emotion and regret it later. They make decisions from a place of grounded self-awareness, and because of that, they build lives that are stable, focused, and unshakable. You can't live your best life if you're always reacting to your worst moments. And that's why this matters. If you want peace, you have to stop letting your emotions run your day. If you want progress, you have to stop letting your mood decide your level of effort. If you want real growth, you have to stop waiting to feel good before you act. Some of your biggest breakthroughs will come during your hardest days, because those are the days you prove to yourself that your emotions don't own you. You're in charge now. So the next time you feel triggered, tired, anxious, angry, or overwhelmed, don't run from it. Don't suppress it. Observe it. Name it. Breathe into it. Then decide what action serves the version of you you're building. That one decision to respond with intention instead of reacting from emotion can change the direction of your entire life. Because once you learn how to master yourself, Nothing outside of you has power over you anymore. And that is where your real freedom begins. Chapter 6. Your old story is not your future. You are not stuck. You are not your past. And whatever you've been through, whatever choices you've made, whatever pain you've carried or mistakes you've repeated, none of it defines your future unless you keep holding on to it. The power to change your life does not belong to your past. It belongs to what you do now, and it begins the moment you stop identifying with the old version of yourself and start choosing who you're becoming. The only thing standing between the life you live and the life you want is the story you're still telling yourself. The truth is, people don't stay stuck because of their circumstances. They stay stuck because they keep recycling the same beliefs, the same labels, and the same identity they've carried for years. It sounds like, this is just who I am. I've always been like this. I don't think I'll ever change. That kind of thinking builds a mental prison, and it doesn't just hold you back, it convinces you that you don't even have a key. But you do. You always have. The problem is, you've gotten so used to that old version of yourself, the one that struggled, the one that doubted, the one that got hurt or disappointed, that now you've started calling it truth. You've confused repetition with identity, and that's exactly what needs to change. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to outgrow who you used to be. You are allowed to leave behind thoughts, habits, and patterns that no longer serve the person you're trying to become. But that won't happen until you stop defending your old story. You can't build a new life while clinging to an old narrative. And you know exactly what that narrative sounds like. It's the one that shows up when you try something new, and the voice says, "Remember the last time you tried and failed." It's the one that kicks in when things get hard and whispers, "You never finish what you start." It's the one that makes you second-guess your progress, because deep down, you still see yourself as the person who always struggled. But here's the truth. Just because it happened before doesn't mean it's going to happen again. The past is a place of reference, not residence. And you have to stop making long-term decisions based on short-term versions of yourself. You have to stop allowing a chapter that hurt you to become the title of your entire life. You have to make peace with who you were, not to justify it, not to carry guilt, but to learn from it and move forward. You owe that to yourself. Growth starts when you stop living by default and start living by design. When you look at the future and say, "I'm not just going to wait and hope, I'm going to choose. I'm going to act. I'm going to lead myself forward." Because the past is over. It doesn't exist anymore unless you bring it back with your thoughts. And the longer you keep replaying it, the more you reinforce a reality that no longer fits you. So now the question becomes, what story are you telling yourself today? Are you still identifying with the version of you who didn't have the knowledge, the strength, the experience you have now? Are you still speaking like someone who is broken, lost, or unworthy? Or are you stepping into a mindset that reflects growth? Are you aligning your thoughts and actions with the future you want to build instead of the past you're trying to escape? You don't need permission to start over. You don't need proof that things will be different. You need belief. You need courage. You need to get honest about how long you've been holding on to a story that no longer fits. Because change doesn't come when the conditions are perfect. It comes when you finally get tired of your own excuses. When you get tired of being limited by something that should have been left behind a long time ago. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. And it doesn't matter how many times you've messed up or fallen short. All that matters is that you decide today, right now, that you're not going to let your past dictate your future. You're not going to let old pain become your permanent identity. You're not going to let who you used to be stop you from becoming who you're meant to be. This is the moment you draw the line. This is the moment you say, that version of me, that's not who I am anymore. Maybe you were undisciplined. Maybe you were lost. Maybe you were angry, impulsive, afraid, confused. Maybe you stayed silent when you should have spoken up. Maybe you gave up when you should have kept going. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And it means you've grown. And now it's time to stop shrinking yourself back into the box of who you used to be and start stepping into the life you were built to lead. You don't owe your past anything. What you owe is your future. You owe it everything. Your time, your focus, your commitment. And if you keep looking back, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. The opportunity to reinvent yourself. The chance to show up stronger, wiser, more aligned than you've ever been. The chance to prove to yourself that just because you've struggled doesn't mean you're not capable. In fact, it's the struggle that made you capable. So the next time that old voice tries to creep back in and tell you you can't change, you remind yourself, you are not your history. You are not your failures. You are not your trauma, your mistakes or your past habits. You are the one who gets to decide what comes next. And that decision starts with the story you're willing to believe about yourself. Because the real you, the disciplined you, the focused you, the courageous you, is already inside. You just have to stop telling the story that says otherwise. You just have to stop waiting for the world to confirm it and start showing up like it's already true. And when you do, when you finally let go of the old and start building the new with intention, discipline and faith, that's when your life truly begins. That's when your future becomes more powerful than your past. Chapter 7. People's opinions are a reflection of them, not you. You don't rise by being liked. You rise by being focused. You don't grow by pleasing people. You grow by pleasing your purpose. And if you spend your whole life trying to shrink yourself into someone else's comfort zone, you'll never discover the strength of your own voice. The truth is, too many people are afraid to live boldly because they're afraid of what others will think. They carry invisible chains made of opinions, constantly looking around to see who's watching, who's judging, who's criticizing. And in doing that, they trade the life they want for the comfort of fitting in. But the problem with fitting in is that it always costs you something, usually the best parts of yourself. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will support you. Not everyone will clap when you win. And that's okay. That's not your problem to fix. That's not your responsibility to carry. Because people see you through their own lens, their own fears, their own experiences, their own insecurities. And sometimes, what they project onto you has nothing to do with you at all. It's just their reflection, showing up in your mirror. And the sooner you stop internalizing it, the freer you become. Every time you hold yourself back, because of what someone might think, you delay your own breakthrough. Every time you water yourself down to avoid judgment, you're sending a message to your future that someone else's opinion is more important than your own growth. That mindset will destroy your momentum. It will weaken your discipline. It will blur your vision. Because when your focus shifts to other people's thoughts, your actions start to serve their expectations instead of your purpose. You stop building what matters and start performing for approval. And the worst part is, no matter how much you try to win their praise, it's never enough. Because people who don't support you in your becoming aren't looking to be inspired, they're looking to be comfortable. And you showing up with strength makes them confront the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. So instead of wondering who likes you, ask yourself if you like the life you're building. Instead of looking for applause, look at your own alignment. Are you proud of the effort you're putting in? Are you committed to the direction you're going? Are you staying true to what matters, even when no one's watching? Because that's what builds real confidence. Not praise, not attention, not likes or shares or compliments. Confidence comes from doing the work regardless of whether anyone claps for you. You don't need validation to stay disciplined. You need vision. You need clarity on where you're going and why it matters. And once you have that, opinions become background noise. They don't shake you. They don't slow you down. They don't matter nearly as much, because your mission speaks louder than their judgment. You're not here to meet everyone's expectations. You're here to grow, to lead, to evolve, and to leave a mark that doesn't require explanation or apology. People will always have something to say, but what they say is filtered through their own perspective. A person who's never taken risks will call you reckless for being bold. Someone who's never faced their fears will call you unrealistic for chasing your dream. People stuck in limitation will always criticize those who move in freedom. That's the truth. That's the pattern. But if you let their opinions shape your choices, you'll wake up years from now with a life you don't even recognize, one that looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. So protect your peace. Protect your power. You don't need everyone to understand your path. You just need to keep walking it. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you step into a higher level of discipline. The kind where you no longer live for approval. You live for progress. You live for purpose. You live for that inner fire that doesn't go out when people stop watching. And the truth is, the more you grow, the more resistance you'll face. Not because you're wrong, but because you're changing. And change makes people uncomfortable. You showing up with more focus, more energy, more clarity. It challenges the people around you to confront their own habits. And instead of being inspired, some will try to drag you back down just to feel safe again. But that's not your burden. Your job is to keep rising. Your job is to stay aligned. Your job is to make sure that your future is built on your standards, not their doubts. Your journey is yours. Your decisions are yours. Your discipline is yours. And the opinions that come and go are just distractions unless you give them power. So stop feeding your energy to people who aren't building anything. Stop shrinking your potential just to make someone else comfortable. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be great. You are here to become the strongest version of yourself. And that version doesn't need permission. That version doesn't need applause. That version just needs consistency. So if they talk, let them talk. If they doubt, let them doubt. But you, keep working, keep showing up, keep building a life that makes you proud. Because at the end of the day you have to live with yourself, not their opinions, not their projections, not their approval. Just you. And the more honest you are with yourself, the less approval you'll need from others. That's where the real power is. That's when the opinions lose their grip. Because you finally remember who you are, and who you're becoming is far more important than who they think you are. Chapter 8. Build proof of greatness, not just potential. Nothing changes until you start proving it to yourself, not to others, not to the people watching, not to the world, to you. Every time you take action, every time you follow through, every time you keep your word, especially when no one's watching, You're building something far more powerful than talent. You're building proof. And proof creates belief. You don't need to hype yourself up with empty motivation when you've got evidence backing who you are and what you can do. Because that's what quiet confidence is made of. It's not something you yell, it's something you carry. It comes from the simple, consistent decision to show up again and again until your actions speak so loud you don't have to. A lot of people walk around holding on to the idea of their potential like it's a trophy. They talk about what they could do, who they might become, how great they'll be someday if everything goes right. And they think that's enough. But it's not. Potential means nothing without proof. The dream is worthless if it stays in your head. The plan is meaningless if it never meets execution. It's easy to sit back and believe you have what it takes, but belief without evidence is fragile. It cracks under pressure. It fades when things get hard, because when you haven't built anything solid, your mind will go looking for reasons to quit. It'll start whispering doubts, and if you've got no proof to fight those thoughts with, you'll believe them. That's why building proof matters more than anything. You don't need to prove yourself to others. You need to prove yourself to you. You need to give your mind something to look at when it starts doubting. Something real. Something measurable. Something earned. Like that one day you didn't want to get up, but you did. That one week you kept showing up, even though you didn't see results yet. That one time you stayed focused when every distraction begged for your attention. These things seem small in the moment, but they stack. They build internal weight. And over time that weight turns into confidence that can't be shaken by a bad day, a bad comment, or a bad mood. You've got to stop waiting for greatness to appear out of nowhere and start treating your potential like a promise you're responsible for fulfilling. Because nobody is coming to unlock it for you. Nobody is going to pull it out of you and put it on display. You have to go after it. You have to earn it. You have to build a body of work that reminds you exactly who you are when your mind tries to make you forget. That's how you break out of the cycle of inconsistency. That's how you stop starting over every time life throws you off track. You lean on the discipline you've built, not the motivation you're hoping will return. The difference between people who stay stuck and people who grow is the amount of proof they've created in their own lives. Stuck people talk about what they want. Growing people show up for it. They've made peace with the fact that nobody cares about their dreams as much as they do. So they stopped waiting for applause. They stopped hoping for recognition. They stopped needing every step to feel exciting. And they started collecting proof. One rep at a time, one habit at a time, one win at a time. Not because they had to, because they knew the only way to become who they're meant to be is by doing the work that version of them does. Your potential is not a finish line. It's not some final form you unlock when everything lines up perfectly. It's a direction. It's a weight you have to carry with responsibility. It's the standard you have to live up to, not just dream about. Every day that you take action, no matter how small, you close the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And every day that you sit still, scroll endlessly, and tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow, you widen that gap. And it doesn't matter how talented you are if you don't use it. It doesn't matter how smart, gifted, or passionate you are if you don't follow through. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards consistency. It rewards proof. It rewards those who are brave enough to stop talking and start doing. You're capable of more. You know that. But knowing isn't enough. What have you built? What do your habits say about your standards? What have you done in the past 30 days that proves you're serious about your growth? These are the questions that cut through the noise. These are the questions that separate the dreamers from the doers. And if you don't like the answers, good. That means you're awake. That means now is the perfect time to stop playing small and start acting like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to announce everything you're working on, but you do have to build. You have to create structure. You have to move with urgency. You have to become someone who follows through because it's part of your identity, not just part of your motivation. And the only way to become that kind of person is by proving it to yourself every single day. You don't need to make a massive leap. You just need to move forward with intention. 1 hour of focused work. 1 tough decision done right. 1 disciplined choice when no one is watching. These things add up, and when they do, you begin to see what you're truly capable of, not in theory but in practice. And that's the shift. When your identity catches up to your effort, when your mind finally believes because you've built too much evidence to ignore, you stop questioning your path. You stop wondering if it's working. You stop needing signs, because now you've got results. You've got proof. And once you have that, no opinion, no obstacle, and no setback can take that away from you. So forget about trying to convince anyone of your greatness. Stop waiting for the world to notice. Focus on building something real. Focus on doing the work that aligns with your future, not your feelings. And when doubt shows up, point to the proof. Point to the days you didn't quit. Point to the progress you've made. Point to the habits you've built. That's your evidence. That's your anchor. That's your quiet power. And it's that kind of power that makes you unstoppable. Chapter 9. Mastery comes from repetition, not inspiration. If you want to build a life that actually changes things, one that carries power, purpose, and peace, you have to stop chasing the feeling of being inspired and start chasing the act of being consistent. Inspiration might spark a moment, but repetition builds the muscle. That's how you master anything. Not by feeling motivated once in a while, but by doing the work again and again until your identity is reshaped by discipline. That's how mastery is earned. Not through hype, not through excitement, but through the grind that no one sees. The quiet, repeated decisions that stack up and shape you into someone unstoppable. It's easy to be fired up after watching something powerful. You get that hit of energy, that burst of motivation. For a moment, it feels like anything is possible. You start writing down your goals. You start planning a new routine. You start imagining your ideal life. But then a few days pass. The excitement fades. Life gets busy. You get tired. You miss a day. And then another. Before you know it, that wave of motivation that felt so strong is completely gone. And this is where most people fall off. Not because they didn't care, not because they didn't want it, but because they built their strategy on a feeling instead of a habit. Inspiration is emotional. Repetition is strategic. If you rely on being emotionally excited to take action, you'll only show up when conditions are perfect. But if you train yourself to take action regardless of your mood, you become dangerous. You become consistent. And consistency is what separates those who talk from those who transform. Consistency makes your actions automatic. It turns discipline into default. And it teaches your mind that we don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it. We just do it because it's who we are now. Repetition is the blueprint for every skill, every habit, every transformation. Nobody wakes up one day and becomes disciplined by accident. Nobody becomes focused, confident, or capable overnight. It's built. It's developed. It's refined in silence. While others are distracted, you're repeating. While others are chasing the next motivational high, you're reinforcing your standards with action. That's how you grow. Not in dramatic leaps, but in quiet layers. Each day, another layer. Each rep, another layer. Each moment of resistance overcome, another layer. And before you even realize it, you've become someone you barely recognize, someone you once dreamed of becoming. But you won't get there by occasionally showing up. You won't build anything solid by being consistent once a week. If you want something to be second nature, you have to repeat it so often that it becomes who you are. You don't think about it. You don't wrestle with the decision. You just move. You just act. And it all starts with what you do daily, not what you feel occasionally. The people who master anything, whether it's their craft, their mind, their health, or their focus, aren't driven by how they feel. They're driven by what they've committed to. They've trained themselves to honor their word, not their emotions. They've learned that boredom is part of growth. Repeating the basics, refining the fundamentals, showing up when it's not exciting, that's the path. And the ones who embrace it, who stop needing everything to be new and thrilling all the time, those are the ones who rise above the rest. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to pick one thing and do it every day. Not when you feel good, not when life gives you space. Every day. Because that's how you send a message to yourself that this matters, that this is who I am now, that this isn't a phase, it's a new foundation. Repetition carves identity, and identity determines action. So if you want to live like a disciplined, focused, elevated version of yourself, you have to start acting like that person long before you feel like them. You act your way into belief, not the other way around. No one becomes great by doing it once. Nobody becomes unshakable by waiting for inspiration. The difference between those who talk about change and those who live it is how they handle the days when it's not exciting. The early mornings, the lonely work, the repetitions that feel invisible. That's where greatness is hiding. Not in the spotlight, not in the applause, but in the quiet hours when no one's watching, and you still choose to show up anyway. If you want mastery, stop asking how to stay motivated. Ask how to stay consistent. Build systems, not just goals. Set up your environment to support your habits. Track your wins. Eliminate distractions. Stay laser-focused on the process. Because the process will always take you further than the hype ever could. You were never meant to live in cycles of motivation and burnout. You were built for more than that. You were built to sustain, to repeat, to evolve. But only if you stop waiting for the spark and start committing to the work. Only if you stop searching for the perfect feeling and start showing up with imperfect discipline. That's where the shift happens. That's where you stop being a consumer of motivation and become a creator of results. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't ask yourself how you feel. Ask yourself what needs to be done. Then do it. Again the next day, and the next. Until you no longer question whether or not you're capable. Because now you have the evidence. Now you've built the proof. And that proof was never created in one perfect moment. It was built through the repetition that most people avoid. The repetition that shapes you when no one's watching. The repetition that turns you from potential into proof. From a dreamer into a doer. From average into extraordinary. That's what mastery looks like. And it's waiting for you, one repeat at a time. Chapter 10. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Nothing will hold you back more than the fear you refuse to face. Not your past. Not your circumstances, not your current situation. Fear is the real enemy. Fear is the invisible wall that stands between where you are and where you're meant to be. And until you're willing to stop running from it, to stop avoiding it, to stop letting it decide what you can or can't do, you will stay locked in a smaller version of your life. That's the hard truth. Not because you aren't capable of more, but because fear has convinced you to settle for less. Fear is subtle. It doesn't always show up as panic or terror. Sometimes it's hesitation. Sometimes it's procrastination. Sometimes it's perfectionism. Sometimes it's that little voice in the back of your mind saying, maybe next time, or you're not ready, or what if you fail? But every time you listen to that voice, every time you play it safe instead of stepping up, you're not protecting yourself, you're robbing yourself. You're trading possibility for comfort. And comfort might feel good for a moment, but long term it leaves you with regret. Because deep down, you know exactly what you're capable of. You just haven't shown the world yet. Growth doesn't live in safety. Progress doesn't live in convenience. All the things you want, the discipline, the confidence, the success, the peace, they all live beyond fear. They live on the other side of hard conversations, on the other side of risk, on the other side of doing the thing that makes your stomach turn but your soul light up. And if you're not willing to walk through that resistance, you're not going to find out who you really are. You'll just keep repeating the same cycles, the same routines, the same level of life, over and over again, calling it stability when it's really just fear in disguise. The people who change their lives, the ones who rise up and become everything they're meant to be, are not the ones who had no fear. They're the ones who learned how to move anyway. They were scared, but they started. They doubted themselves, but they kept going. They didn't know how it would all work out, but they knew staying stuck wasn't an option anymore. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, just courage in motion. And that's the kind of courage you build by showing up every time fear tells you to sit down. Fear is predictable. It always shows up when you're about to grow. It shows up when you try something new, when you raise your standards, when you leave the old version of yourself behind. So if fear is showing up in your life right now, that's not a sign to back away. That's a sign to lean in, because it means you're stepping outside the lines of your comfort zone. And that's where real life begins. That's where you meet the strongest, sharpest, most resilient version of yourself. You have to stop treating fear like a stop sign. It's not. It's a test. It's asking you, are you really serious about this? Do you really want it? Or are you just talking about it? Are you willing to get uncomfortable, to feel the fear and still move? If the answer is yes, then that fear becomes fuel. That resistance becomes a signal that you're headed in the right direction. And the more you walk into it, the smaller it becomes. Because fear only has power when you run from it. Face it, and it fades. Challenge it, and it crumbles. And here's what's even more powerful. Once you do the thing you were afraid of, once you step into that uncomfortable space and realize you didn't die, you didn't break, you didn't lose everything, you start to build a new kind of confidence. Not the kind that's loud and fake, but the kind that's unshakable. The kind that says, I've been through fear before, and I didn't fold, I didn't quit, I didn't let it own me. That kind of confidence can't be bought. It can't be faked. It's earned in the trenches of discomfort. You don't have to be fearless to change your life. You just have to stop letting fear lead. You have to stop letting it make decisions for you. You have to stop waiting for the fear to go away before you take action, because it won't. It lingers. It whispers. It waits. But you can get louder. You can move stronger. You can become the one in control, not the one being controlled. And every time you do, every time you choose courage over comfort, you build momentum. That momentum turns into discipline. That discipline turns into results. And those results turn into belief. You have no idea how powerful you really are, because you haven't put yourself in enough situations to find out. You've let fear tell you stories about what could go wrong, but you haven't lived enough of your own truth to see what could go right. That stops now. That old narrative that says, I can't, or I'm not ready, or it's too risky, needs to go. It's not protecting you, it's holding you hostage. And if you want your future to look different than your past, you have to start walking toward the very thing that scares you. You have one life, and you get to choose whether that life is built by fear or by focus, whether it's driven by purpose or paralyzed by doubt, whether you play it small because it's safe or go all in because it's worth it. And every single day you make that choice, with your thoughts, with your actions, with the way you respond when fear shows up. Everything you want, every breakthrough, every goal, every dream, it's not waiting for you to feel ready. It's waiting for you to stop letting fear be the loudest voice in your life. The moment you take one step into the unknown, the moment you move in the direction of your vision, despite the anxiety, despite the shaking hands, despite the doubts, that's the moment you become unstoppable. Because now, fear isn't leading. You are. And when you lead your life like that, no obstacle, no setback, no opinion can break you. You are not meant to play it safe. You are not meant to live beneath your power. You are meant to walk into fear and prove to yourself that you're stronger than anything trying to stop you. That is where everything changes. That is where your life begins, right on the other side of fear.